5. We're going to run down to recognizing persons in the audience. Would somebody like to get up? Not the 3 there. All right. We're going to run down to conflict of interest declaration. Has any council received information pertaining to or otherwise had any contact with any person regarding any items on the city council agenda? So please set forth the nature of contact.
Mayor.
Councilman Harjo.
I should disclose I attended a county commission meeting just as a citizen to attend and view some of our presenters under old business item number 1, present a document that that pertains to a water study from the USGS.
Councilman Brennan.
Received an email from Dylan Lawrence regarding the nature of item number 1, just trying to get it scheduled. Nothing specific on the email.
Okay. Okay. Run down to the consent agenda. I know it's a really, really large one, council. Is there anything on there that have any other questions on, or are we good to proceed? Councilman Brennan.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilwoman Wirkkala.
Aye.
Councilman Harjo.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan. Aye. Councilwoman Garvey.
Aye.
Run down to old business. Discussion with Dylan Lawrence regarding Elmore County. I'm sure it's Carrie, Terry, and Dylan.
Yep.
So come on down. Grab you another seat there. Before we start, I want to say that the email was after the last meeting that we had was like we didn't, there was nothing nefarious. We just asked, these are the questions and comments first. So with that, that was kind of the obviously I believe in your project. I believe getting any water to Elmore County is probably super advantageous to everybody as a whole. So
right.
Our big thing is just Ronald Reagan said it best, trust but verify and ask the questions, right? And so that's all I was trying to do. It wasn't trying to do anything against you guys or anything like that, but
right.
Here move forward with that. We're all ears.
Okay, well, since I was the one, I'll start, even though again I hope that these people do some talking to. I'm Dylan Lawrence, for the record. I'm Elmore County's outside water rights attorney, and in fairness to you guys, this water stuff is complicated. There are a lot of moving parts to it. The 3 of us and the Elmore County commissioners, we deal with it on a daily and a weekly basis, and I think we sometimes forget that if you're just sort of seeing it here and there, how tough it can be to remember what all's going on. So at the end of the day, we just wanted to make sure that you guys had all of the information that you needed to sort of respond to our request one way or the other. So we provided you guys with those detailed responses to some of the questions that we saw come up, and so I think the first order of business is just opening it up to you guys to let us know of any follow-up questions, because we know there was a lot of content in there.
Councilman Brennan.
Dylan, did you have a chance to read the email I responded to the mayor with?
I mean, if it was in the public records response, I read it, but I don't remember specifically what you're asking about.
Okay. How I feel is I fully trust you guys, and I know you're doing the right thing, and I wouldn't know how to get there myself by any means, and so I'll fully support it. The only concern and question that I will probably bring up time and time again is just making sure that how it's paid for is by use and not by population. So the big water users pay a bigger portion than the little individual city user, so to speak. And I know there's a lot of individual city users, but that's the biggest concern I have. I'd love to see this progress and move forward, and ultimately figure out how it's going to get paid for.
All right. Yeah. And I mean, I know we talked about this last time, but at this point, we're not asking for any sort of financial commitment from the city at all. It's just a matter of, will you help us respond to that IDWR letter or not? And yeah, the financing stuff clearly would need to be dealt with at some point, but we're still a few steps away from that.
Yeah. And just, well, I guess for the record, right? Like, I think as I said before, I'm willing to together, whatever we gotta do, because I trust y'all. And when that step gets there, that's the big,
Yeah.
whatever elephant in the room.
Yeah.
How are we gonna do it? That's where you're gonna hear my voice
Sure.
come up and
Yeah.
questioning that part. The rest of it, I'm easy to move forward with that.
So, full disclosure, Chris, Marty, myself, we met with Brian Patton, Cynthia, Rich Clark, Cody, and Nick, asking what could the city do to help facilitate your guys' application, right? And they were, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're like, well, there's no component of municipal use, right, other than maybe recharge or whatever. Like, we don't have like gray water hookup or anything like that. We don't have it scheduled. We don't have it planned for the future growth of Mount Home. It doesn't say that we shouldn't be thinking about that in the future. And so, how did that look? And that was the biggest question that I guess, how does the city support? And they're like, well, they were like, this is their words. It will probably get approved even without the municipal name on there, right? Like, you guys are going to go forward with or without the city, blessing with. So that was kind of a breath of fresh air. And we told them straight up, like, how do we support this, but making it, like as Councilman Brennan said, a fair share, right? Like 6%, this is what you guys are trying to do to get Snake River water to here is going to be phenomenal for the farmers. That's huge. We all know where our food comes from, right? And so we don't want it to be in pitted city versus anybody. We want to help. And then we also talked about the Anderson one, and how important that one is. We all know statistically the 2 years, what was it, 2 years that we didn't have water, Councilman Harjo, that coming through because the tunnels were collapsed, the decline in the aquifer right then, without that recharge. So, am I missing something, Chris?
I don't think so. We talked about the water treatment facility, that we don't have one. That's not something that we're scoping for in the future. But other than that,
Yeah, and then, but they know that the city supports it. So I want you guys to hear from me that when we talk to them, that we support your guys' project. So, other than that, that's what I have. Other than the only question is when you gave us the 2017 Snake River water right application, and then I asked you what the cost was, you said you didn't have an answer. The answer is like but then you gave them the answer was like $43.7 million or something like that. You had a design. Have you guys done impact fees, like environmental yet, to see how you're going to get that up here?
I think it's the cost, was that in the application for the old concept?
This is the 2019 one that you submitted to.
So, yeah, so the 2017 water rate application had an estimated cost, but that was a different point of diversion back when it was potentially going to be combined with the base, and all of that's changed. So right now, we don't have anything other than this pending application. And if we get the application in, then it makes sense to move forward with, okay, where is that point of diversion going to be? Because it's not going to be where it says in the application.
or likely not.
Yeah, likely
I
not.
mean, as of right now, the application lists the original point of version, and we're kind of sticking with that until we get approval to make it worthwhile to move forward on additional planning studies.
Was that the 2017 or the 19?
Well, it was 2017 was when the application went in. And I don't know if the estimate was 2000.
I don't know what the 2019 is.
Yeah.
I think the estimate of 19 was 40.7.
Okay, yeah, we've been 18 or 19 when we submitted additional information.
Oh.
Yes.
And that was 30-inch pipe and all that good stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the good pipe.
Yeah.
Okay. And then have you done any environmentals yet, or like asked?
No.
Because we were worried when Chris and I are sitting there with them, like, hey, what happens if you guys give them the application and everything goes through? Then what happens? Because you have like 5 years, and then they say, oh, we give an extension, and then that'll be another 5 years, 10 years. And I go, well, then would you give them more extensions? Obviously, funding, trying to find funding. Would you give more extensions if you had issues trying to go through BLM property or going through private property? Would you give more extensions? They said yeah. So that made us feel a hell of a lot better. You say, Chris?
It'd be great to have wet water in 5 years and not have to do more extensions.
Right. Do you
And,
know where you'd store it all?
sorry?
Do you know where you'd store all this water?
like build additional storage, if it can be pumped up to use and store if it needed at Mount Home Reservoir. We know that reservoir leaks and provides aquifer recharge, but it would be used seasonally at the farms, right? Pumped right into the farms, and then in the wintertime, hopefully stored for recharge, at an existing storage location. Or maybe you can get it all the way to the existing recharge pits, but no new storage would be developed.
Yeah, so the proposal is seasonally you'd have supplemental irrigation within the Mountain Home Irrigation District. You'd have municipal use, however we define what that municipal use would be, whether it's pressurized irrigation or ultimately could be treated and used in the future for potable use. And then the excess is the thought would be is you would take that up to those recharge sites north of the freeway, the gravel pits, and that would they'd be available anytime those other uses didn't need the water.
Our golf course is still considered municipal use for this, right? Since they're using surface water there, we tie it in, and then that's a component of the municipal use.
That could be municipal use, yes.
We use groundwater only when our irrigation finally runs out for the irrigation season.
Right, and so if you're Mountain Home Irrigation District watered for the golf course, that's exactly what this application is proposing, is supplemental irrigation within Mountain Home Irrigation District.
So in reality, it's our only source of surface water that we're putting down, right, in the city. So we tie it in there, which is really close to their current canal system or whatever, then there's municipal use in my mind.
Councilman Harjo?
Terry Dillon, is there an intent to bring that as a pressurized system to the agricultural sites? Is that, or is there an intent to pump that to, say, the reservoir and then use gravity and the existing infrastructure to deliver that water?
As the application's currently structured, the intent would be to take it to Mountain Home Irrigation District and bring it back through the gravity system for that supplemental irrigation use. But it's piped until that point, so it's under pressure at that point. So as it's coming past the city, you've got pressurized water there that could then be used for pressurized irrigation within the city.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Garvey?
Okay, so this is the 2019, I guess you would call it addendum to your 2017.
Okay.
So this map here is, you would take it from the base in this rendering?
In that rendering, at that point, we were looking at parallel pipeline, paralleling the basis pipeline, and then just keep going.
So we have an additional 15 feet to go to come to Mount Home from the base.
Wow.
15 miles, excuse me, 15 feet.
That was like me.
I can throw my rock. I'm sorry. No, I'm just trying to formulate my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry about that. Thank you. So we have an additional 15 feet, and that project costs $70 million, I want to say.
Okay.
And so so your project costs here were 43. Now we're 5 years down the road or 4 years down the road, and we have to add an additional 15 feet. So this is probably a $1 billion project.
No, but
I mean,
we will need.
$1 billion's a high number, but obviously.
Yeah, no, this will be an expensive project. And we'll have to do cost analysis once we select the final route, location, sizing, all those things. So, yes, it's not a cheap endeavor
Right.
by any means.
So, and then what is your plan of this, from this letter back from Sykes Cody? I'm reiterating what the mayor said. It states that it's unclear how the water will be used for municipal purposes. So what is your plan to put this back in the application to Idaho Resources to spell out how we actually will be able to use it municipally.
And that's actually the reason we've been, we were here initially, and we're here again today, is to work with the city to kind of come up with a description of that use. So one of the concepts would be is that the primary use could be pressurized irrigation, non-potable pressurized irrigation, because 85% of the city's summer water use is for irrigation purposes. So if you can cut down demand for that potable water, that frees up water for city growth, potable, by replacing it with this non-potable pressurized irrigation.
Pressurized irrigation system approximately costs?
Hard to say. It just depends on what it would be.
Put it in a new subdivision or
Yeah.
existing or to the golf
Right, and
course.
so I guess my point being is that I'm just trying to make sure I understand. I'm in full support of everything. However, I'm a little bit worrisome that the burden of cost is going to come back to the city. And also how much it costs to maintain these types of systems after the infrastructure is put in. Will that burden fall to the city or will that burden fall to the county? The city doesn't have that kind of money. I mean, they said approximately 5% of the entire project was the number that IWR gave us. So just trying to feel out like what it is, what can we do? However, we can't afford that. Nor can we afford, in my opinion right now, to start implementing a pressurized irrigation system for our existing subdivisions and our new subdivisions. I mean, they're going to make a minuscule, it's going to make progress, which is great. We've talked about that in the past, making sure that they are using gray water, not potable water. But it's just...
We might be getting a little ahead. So I think it's about bringing the opportunity. What you do with it in the future when it gets there, that's your financial decision when it gets there. And there are some great funding programs that could be available, but it's about getting to the opportunity. And so that's all we need to do right now is let's bring the opportunity to use it, and then how much it costs and who can use it. If it's unaffordable, then you don't use it. But the pipeline's close, and you could tap into it if it does become affordable somehow. Or, if this 20 CFS at the beginning, and we can expand that, and it expanded across the more people, it obviously reduces the cost. But as far as who pays for what, you're not going to pull up to a gas station and pump your car, your Volkswagen, and pay the same as someone in a big F-250 next to you, right? That's the cost for water works the same way. You don't charge a flat fee. I'm not sure how you guys' rates are. A lot of cities offer like a first 2,000 gallons or something at a flat cost. A lot of people are moving, a lot of cities are moving to you pay per drop, and that would be make more sense for this type of project because you pay for what you use. So I think the idea that the city residents would somehow be paying the same as a farmer it doesn't make sense. It would never fly. So that wouldn't happen. And if the opportunity's there and it's affordable, then you tap into it. But if you're not tapping into it, then the city wouldn't pay for it at all. No.
I guess
Mayor,
Councilwoman Wirkkala?
thank you. So yeah, I support the discussion first, right? So can Dylan Lawrence and his team meet with Chris Curtis or whomever the appropriate individuals are within the city to see how it'll be with municipal use, and then bring it back to council, and then we can review that for that potentially to put it in the application. Can that be our next step?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Councilman Brennan.
I brought this up, I think, in our very last discussion too, which was preparing the city new development for pressurized irrigation. And I think I had some pushback against that. But obviously I can't speak for everybody, but even if we don't pass an ordinance now, if we're making that progress that Paul talked about, there's a plan, there's progress, you could essentially impact an ordinance for a new subdivision to mandate pressurized irrigation piping. But even if we commit verbally without an ordinance to them that says, if you make progress to this point, at that moment we intend, I know we can't probably bind another council, I get that, but to then enact a requirement for new development to have a pressurized irrigation capability. Is that something that would help in your paperwork?
Sure, I mean, really, all we're looking for is this,
Letter of support?
is a letter of support and a letter of, here's, if the water was available to us and we could afford it, and we decided to go ahead, this is how we would use it. I think that's really what I'm looking for in this response, and the response could be as, it's as simple as new subdivisions, we would put on pressurized irrigation. Existing subdivisions, where it made sense, we could retrofit to pressurized irrigation. Someday in the future, when the demand is there, we could consider water treatment and potable use. I mean, it's really as simple an answer as that to respond to IDWR's question, I think.
That's easy. I mean, draft that up and let's send it.
Yeah, here's some ideas,
Yeah.
non-binding at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the key here is we want to make sure the city's on board with whatever response we make.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Garvey?
So it says here on this letter from Cody, the last sentence on the first page of the paragraph, it says, including project elements that will be constructed, operated, and or maintained by the city of Mountain Home.
So that for example, that could say the city of Mountain Home would own and operate pressurized irrigation distribution systems, booster pumps, etc. within the city limits, something along those lines. At this point, we're not looking for the city to say, is they're going to run, operate a pump station on the Snake River, anything like that. Conceptually, this is a county project at this point, and we're looking at the city having a tap into it as it comes by.
Councilman Harjo?
Would it suffice knowing that we have measurable aquifer recharge at this point? I mean, USGS study that you guys presented to the county, the irrigation districts documentation, DEQ. There's a number of studies that show aquifer recharge along the irrigation district canals. Would it be sufficient, even at the most elementary level, to say that the city would have interest in the county's project just on the basis that if you're going to provide that water into Mountain Home Reservoir, not committing to any other potential system in the future or funding or whatever, that just on that alone that we maintain an interest based on aquifer recharge if you're going to put that water in recharge pits or Mountain Home Irrigation District or the reservoir. Is that sufficient as a municipal use?
Probably not, because we do have a recognized component of this water right application as aquifer recharge, groundwater recharge. So certainly the city's support of those activities is valuable. But to answer that specific question that's in Cody's letter is how would you use it for municipal purposes? And that would be something other than the aquifer recharge component, I think.
Councilwoman Garvey?
I would be okay with signing something going back to IDWR, taking out a specific language of municipal use. I mean, we know that we're going to be able to use the water. But in here it just says the record record is unclear with respect of how the water will be used for municipal purposes. Specifically, it is not well established how water for municipal purposes will be distributed and used within the City of Mountain Home service area. Please provide a detailed description of the proposed municipal uses and delivery systems. Included the information outlined in Rule 40.0.c.ix shown above, specifically related to the proposed use for water municipal purposes, including project elements that will be constructed, operated, and maintained by the City of Mountain Home. So I'm cautious because if we sign a letter of support, are we signing any? There can't be any verbiage that we're going to maintain it or that we're taking on the project. That's my only concern in reading Cody's, his ask here. So I guess I'm not getting a clear answer on how do you plan on asking for that and asking him in specific, because if you do, you're going to know. You're going to need to get with our city officials and see what we need to construct, operate, how we're going to maintain it. Well, you said we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's a part. In order to approve your application, you need that from us.
Not a commitment to tap into it, but if you did, how would it look? Not, I think that feels like the disconnect.
And I think it's almost how could it look?
How
Sure.
could it
Okay,
look? Yeah.
so my question back to you guys then would be, then who pays for that study of how could it look for the City of Mountain Home? Because we would have to have Keller or somebody else come to us, unless you guys are going to give us the information for pro bono and tell us how Mountain Home can tap into this
That's
water.
a study would be way more detailed then. Like hypothetically, what would this look like? And Terry's engineering, his engineering brain can lay it out in the draft of how hypothetically, but he's not asking for cost, how would you finance it, when would you go for a bond, he's not asking for that. It's that booster pumps and distribution and.
So the IDAPA water appropriation rule 40.04, correct me if I'm wrong, plans, specifications, and estimated construction cost for the project works definite enough to allow for determination of product impacts and implications. So you would have to have some sort of a number in place.
Well, I've done a lot of these applications, and in my experience, the bar is not perhaps as high as it sounds. And so, at least the plan at this point would be to provide a response to that request. If they want additional information, they can ask for additional information. But until that time, we'll give them a vague enough description that we're not tying anybody down, the city, the county, or anyone going forward. We're going to describe how, if this is approved, how we could use it. But it doesn't. If you get approval of a water right permit, it doesn't mean you have to use it. You don't have to develop it. It gives you the opportunity to go forward with that.
Yeah. I was going to add one thing if I could. I mean, I think it's also helpful to think about what is the worst case scenario here. I mean, here the worst case scenario is either the department, just denies the municipal aspect of the application and issues a permit for just recharge or irrigation. The next worst case scenario is that they ask for more detail, like Councilwoman Garvey is referring to. But there's just this disconnect that you guys are asking questions for details that when all you have is a pending application, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for the county to spend a bunch of time and money putting all these studies together when we don't even know if we have a permit yet. And so that's just the process we're trying to go through. But at the end of the day, if you guys would be blessing what we submit, and if it's not good enough for the department, they'll either deny that aspect of the application and we'll have a permit for irrigation and recharge. There won't be any municipal use on it, or they'll ask for more detail, saying we didn't get it, give them enough the first time. But those are the two worst case scenarios right now.
And not to draw division or anything, but I disagree with I feel like with where they say vague, right? There's nothing bad about that, but simply to say, this is what we could use from you, and you can say, we'd like to do this, this, and this, and make that contingent upon one little sentence that says, if we have the money at the time, then we'd love to do this. If we had all the money, we'd love for it to just rain on top of all of us all day long, you know, but.
The neat thing is when we met with Cynthia and Brian, obviously the state has kind of put us in a squandary, right, over allocated water rights,
Yes.
right? And I'm not saying that they would pay for it, but they said that maybe, likely, there might be a 50%, and correct me if I'm wrong, they said they'd maybe pay 50% of whatever project, whether it was at the north or the snake, either or, and then you guys go out for the grant funding, stuff like that. You know, I think, I'm not speaking for anybody up here, but I think the city would pay its fair share, right? We pay our 6%, you know. So now, we don't have that kind of scratch, just like, hey guys, here you go, here's 6%, but in the same sense, but what, and so we met with our engineers as well, because we're like, how do we help draft this? And I think what was their response was to build another, for our senior water rights, build another water tank, not a water storage facility. Yeah. So.
Maybe I could suggest potential next steps. I mean, so on our side, I mean, we've already started, us, it's mainly Terry, he's already started drafting sort of like a conceptual document of how the city might be able to use water under this permit. I mean, would it make sense for us to sort of finalize that and send it to the city, and you guys can take a look at it, add in whatever language you think needs to be in there in terms of disclaimers? We include that with our response to IDWR, and then, you know, they'll do what they're going to do with it. But maybe if you have something to actually look at, that will help make things more concrete, because I know we've been talking very conceptually about what this response may look like.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Wirkkala?
I like that idea.
So you,
100%. You saw me nod my head. I'd love to see that. Not to put the work back in your court, but basically you write it for us if we need to tweak just a little bit, and sign it and deliver it. I think that will get the quickest response.
Yeah. And even though we're not, I mean, you know, there's not an immediate deadline, we are under a deadline, and things come up quicker than you think. I think it's May, so, you know, not tomorrow, but it's coming up. So, yeah, I mean, if we can make it kind of a timely thing, that would be helpful.
It might make sense to, all of the answers are conceptual in every response, that even the other questions, they're all conceptual. So how the county would, there's questions on how the county might fund it, that's conceptual. So it's not like this is the only vague answer. And by vague, I think that word is really meaning non-binding. So.
and I think on my end is we raised our water fees, the 4.9%, and there some people, that's what we have to think about too. And so when we look at a $43.7 million 2019 application, you're like, oh my God, who's paying that bill?
That's a lot.
It hits you in the teeth, and you're like I want to get the water here. I just don't know how to pay for it.
I'll be honest, I'll probably leave the funding aspect of it, and my goal is to have county residents as a whole, city included obviously, pay the least capital costs that they can. And my goal would be to not have any extra capital costs laid upon city residents, because there may be a capital cost to all county residents if there was a bond, you know. Hopefully, with the state and some federal funding, we can have that taken care of. But it would be the capital cost to bring the pipeline by. I would hope there's no need to have extra city capital put in. Does that make sense?
Right.
Have it just one thing to county residents if needed. The capital cost of the city would be whatever you want to do with it off that tap.
Right.
So that's completely under your control.
Right. And like I said, the only thing that scares me is a bond.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go to county; it goes to city people too.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Or
One-
judicial confirmation.
Yeah, we're, like last case, right? This needs to be a public
Right.
decision. But there's some opportunities out there that look really good. It's the first time I've heard the state say a 50% number. That's pretty big.
Well, that was us, I guess, asking and begging.
Okay. I mean,
Because I told them, the city of Van Hope, we can't afford that. We don't, you know.
they know the importance. We've had many conversations. They're fully in support. There's such good momentum right now going. Like you said, they have some culpability, not the exact staff that's there, but in the 70s, there was a market shift away from figuring out how to bring surface water to this area and production of groundwater wells. And you can see it in the records, spikes. So you didn't, the people here did not issue their own groundwater rights. And having the base here, if they can put in the pump station and pipeline out there and bring that water, turn off their groundwater wells and never pump another drop. That water's already past Mount Home. That water is not going to recharge back up this way. It's going out to the Snake River. So their investment out there would be wasted if Mountain Home can't survive without in the long term. Right? We need to, their equity stake is supporting the greater Mountain Home area to also support the Air Force Base. They know the importance of it. It's not lost on anybody. So I see this project has more favorable funding outcomes than most.
And like I said, I just want you to know on the city level, we see people that have a hard time paying their grocery bill or their water bill. We have it in here when they're trying to come in and paying their utility bills. And so, you know, bond or a judicial confirmation, knowing that it's going to hurt, you know, so, and or taxes. So just, I don't know,
There's
just
another
food for
piece.
thought. Just food for thought.
We did do an economic study, and I was trying to, I remember the line in here, and I can't find it at the moment, but I think the economic study is finalized, and it was basically looking at the value of water. What does it cost the city if you don't have enough water? And not the city, but the county as a whole. It looked at the whole economic viability of the county. And while it might cost tens of millions of dollars to do these projects, it was billions of dollars of economic loss. So I think the county has said they want to share that study. We just need to get final confirmation. They want to put it on their website. They want to get it out. So that'll be something we can share, and you can look at the numbers and look at the industry. It's a very, not only do you have the economic viability with the base, but you have the feed is grown here, the cattle are grown here, and they're butchered here, basically. It's just, the dollar rolls over a lot here, and if you don't support it with enough water, it's a huge impact. So that study is really interesting and kind of helps when we have to go to the residents and say, this is why water is so important.
Councilwoman Garvey.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so on the, maybe you can help me understand this a little bit better then. On the municipal water right application checklist, and granted this is from 2017, I'm assuming here, does it, so you applied for water rights for a municipality. Okay, so my question is, on the back page, it's a I'm assuming you guys call it, I'm sure you have an acronym for it.
Raffin.
Thank you. I didn't want to butcher it. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, Raffin is how they say it.
Okay, all right. So are you still trying to apply for these water rights under Section 5 non-Raffin application?
Yes.
The reason why I ask, thank you, is because that specifically asks for kind of more, again, I'm not giving you guys pushback. I have a lot of questions on this, okay?
That's good.
So when you say I'm putting the cart before the horse, it's just my brains. It's just thinking here. It says the application should include attached a map of the municipal water service area that's going to be defined. That map should delineate neighboring service areas that are associated with other municipal water providers. current water demand within the municipal service area expressed in average day demand, maximum day demand, and peak hour demand. All of these things are required, and all of those things pertain strictly to City of Mountain Home?
Yes.
Okay, but, forgive me here, we're just conceptually trying to add City of Mountain Home's biome. I'm just worried about it, just that it will bind us to something. Because all of this whole water application refers and goes back to the municipality quite a bit, and how the municipality will use it.
For the municipal purpose. Yeah, there's 3 purposes in this application. Municipal, to be used within the City of Mountain Home as
Or
proposed.
subdivisions within a municipal use, like could be subdivisions within the county.
With amendment of the permit. But
Yeah,
but the application as
It doesn't say that.
Yeah,
No.
the
Yeah, it doesn't
application
say
is
that.
currently written, the place of use for municipal purposes is within the City of Mountain Home, within the City of Mountain Home service area. Okay, so
So can you tell me why that box 2 and 3, or box maybe 2 necessarily, like you just said, political subdivision, how come those weren't checked then? Is this, okay, that's what I'm saying, help me understand this, like, is this application, which is your municipal water right application, is strictly talking about the city?
that portion of the
Is there
overall
another
water
one of
right
these for the county?
application, that portion of the overall water right application currently lists the place of use within the City of Mountain Home, right? For municipal purposes, the IDWR is asking for more definition of what those municipal purposes might be. Those questions you asked, or items you mentioned about average day water demand, etc., those were answered. So they have that information.
No, I'm not asking what information they have. I'm asking why they need this information and how it pertains or doesn't pertain to the City of Mountain Home.
Well, a typical municipal water right application, let's just say say City of Nampa puts in a water right application. Well, they're next door to City of Caldwell, so that the Department of Water Resources wants to see where their service area ends and the next guy starts.
Sure.
So they'll want that kind of information. They'll also want to say, okay, show us that you need the water. That's a typical requirement for any water right application, particularly for municipal. In this case, we can't say that, oh, the city needs 20 CFS of surface water on top of their groundwater, but they could use 20 CFS of surface water to offset their groundwater use. So that has been the theme of this municipal purpose. Is the theme of this entire water right application is to reduce groundwater use by replacing it with surface water.
I appreciate that. That does make sense to me. I appreciate it. And it's not something I deal with every day. You guys deal with it every day. So,
Councilman Harjo?
Lost my train of thought on one of these things.
Sorry, sir.
No, you're good. I should have wrote my note down. As an aside, would you guys mind sending that USGS study over to the clerk so the council can take a look at that? This USGS study, it's out on their website. It's a hydrogeologic framework for the Mountain Home area of southern Idaho, and it's a scientific investigation report from 2024 that you guys mentioned the last time you were here with us. And one of the reasons that I wanted to go watch that presentation at the county commission was because it provides really specific water models for our specific area. It's not conceptual. It really defines the aspect of how hydrogeologically water flows underneath our feet, at what levels, how the topography and the geology affects that. And as well, it talks to how many straws are in the punch bowl and how many can we take out and supplement with surface water. That's really the point of this, is preservation of source water by replacing for the agricultural use primarily with surface water. The intent of the project is very sound, and I think we could probably achieve a letter of support that does not bind us to future costs. We could come up with some conceptual ideas while also stating we're not binding ourselves to this. We don't want to be bound to this. I think we're capable of achieving that. We can conceptualize uses. We've done it several times just during this little session. And there are probably more on the table that we've yet to explore. But from my perspective, I see this as not just a City of Mountain Home issue. This is a community issue. In this water basin, we have big problems. And this is the foremost answer that we have in front of us to work towards solutions to that problem. And I would like to support it with a letter of support.
So move forward, ladies and gentlemen. I guess send us something, or send it to Tiffany, and then she can discern it. Is that all right, Tiff? Or do you want to send it directly to council?
No, it's fine.
Send it to Tiff, and then I'll put some words to paper as well, and then throw it to you, and you say if you like it, you don't like it. And then you can, the body can do their thing, you know what I mean? Councilwoman Garvey?
I have one last question. So the applicant name on the municipal water right application checklist is Board of County Commissioners, in parentheses, for the City of Mountain Home. So who signs this application? If you guys are putting in this application for the City of Mountain Home, who has to sign it? Or who would sign it?
The application that was submitted in 2017, I mean, Elmore County submitted that, but it was with the City of Mountain Home's blessing and approval. The city provided a letter of support at the time.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I said.
Council, we good?
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
I look forward to seeing draft letter, and I'll happily sign it. We'll tweak anything that I guess we have to.
Yeah, no, we want input. That's what we want. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to working with you on it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah.
Move down to new business, items removed, consent agenda were none. Run down to action item number 2, decision to approve resolution 05-2025R for non-resident card at the library fee increase. Council, what do you want to do? Councilman Brennan?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution number 05-2025R for non-resident card at the library.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing now, I'll call for the question. Councilwoman Garvey?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wirkkala?
Aye.
Councilman Harjo?
Aye.
We'll run down to action item number 3, and new business, deliberation decision on Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation and findings of facts to amend the existing conditional use permit at Optimus Park with conditions. Council, what do you want to do?
Mayor?
Councilman Harjo?
Make a motion to approve Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation of findings of facts to amend the existing conditional use permit at Optimus with conditions.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mayor, right there.
Councilman Brennan?
This, I guess it's not the full-on applicant, it's the findings of facts here, but what is the intent for a straight track? How long will it be? I don't see any of the actual details as to what it will be used for, who's requesting. The City of Mountain Home is the applicant, but what's the intention?
Actually, Ronnie, want to come down?
Yeah, I can share with you. I've got some paperwork at the previous city council meeting. Was it previous or special meeting when we presented to you guys?
That was
December.
December city council meeting. At that point, we come in, Chuck and I brought a map in and showed exactly what we're looking at. I will share with you my copy of that, of what everyone else received.
Just really quick, I have a motion in a second, right? Okay, sorry. Right, this is, the 501c3, or what's it called again?
Yes, Race to Empower Incorporated. It was formerly known as Mountain Home Speedway. It has converted to a 501c3 nonprofit. With that, a private donor, as resident Chuck Ciccarelli, has come forward and wants to donate this track to be built, to be gifted to the city on the Optimist property. That was the previous meeting we had down here prior to discovering the legal aspects that needed to happen, which sent us to planning and zoning, which has brought us back here. In short, it's a 200-foot drag strip with a 600-foot run out. The cars that would run there are as big as they get. They will run that 200 feet in about 2.5 to 3 seconds. Alcohol injected. The plan is to bring in some big shows. It would be owned by the city, and then ideally would come in and be leased out to producers to come in and put on their shows, as long as everything meets all the requirements. Underneath, it would all happen underneath Race to Empower Incorporated.
And this is a paved asphalt track?
No, this is sand.
Oh, it's sand.
Yes, it is. If you look up, sand drags, they got paddle tires on them. They're 1,000, 1,500 horsepower cars that are built to run for a quick second.
We're not trying to compete with Firebird then, by any means.
No.
It's not the same cars. It's not the.
No,
a drag strip.
There is no one in Idaho that I'm aware of that has these capabilities. And that's the plan is to build a world-class facility, starting with what Chuck has committed to for the first year.
What about after the first year?
After the first year, it would be a matter of if improvements wanted to be made, if he wanted to donate more or someone else wanted to donate. But the first year is to get something up and operable to his standards. Looking at his design and knowing Chuck Ciccarelli, he's not one to cut any corners when he builds something. He would fund the project. It would be foreman would be Beneganetta Construction Incorporated. They would foreman it. Iron Horse Excavation would come in and do the groundwork.
I want to let Daniel get all his questions and then I'll circle back.
In my mind, I kind of see this as one of our. It's totally different, but like an initial thought is like one of our municipal neighborhood parks. When a developer comes in and says, "I'm going to build a park and then we're going to deed it over to the city," and now it's going to be your problem, and you've got to maintain it, and you've got to mow it, you've got to water it, and you've got to put all your personnel costs onto it. And I still struggle with Optimist Park as a whole, because for the 7 years I've been sitting up here, I keep harping on the city not putting in all of our manpower and our equipment and all of our stuff to maintain the property out there when we have a lease for one person for a full year. I mean, minimum of 1 year. And yet our water truck is still sitting out there, comes and goes, and using our equipment to maintain the property out there, even though there's a lease. And I'm not saying that's happening everywhere, but it's definitely happening a little bit out there. And I get frustrated with that, because now it's, I don't see a way that the city doesn't continue to have to put some money into this. Whether it's the watering the grass area around it, it doesn't say that that's in there, but I'm sure
There's
there will.
no grass in there. It's a gravel parking lot. I understand and respect your concerns with that. You'd mentioned the city, yes, the Optimus, the Mountain Home Speedway had in the past used the old city water truck and the old city loader. That was the city's involvement out there, and that was greatly appreciated. Moving forward, Race to Empower Incorporated has purchased a water truck where we don't have to or need to rely on the city's water truck, as there were situations where it got in a bind as it did get used elsewhere, and we don't want to be reliant on the city to run a show out there. As far as grounds maintenance goes, the Race to Empower Incorporated nonprofit is responsible for all the ground maintenance, as we have in the past. The city, outside of the city's water truck and or loader, all the ground maintenance was done by volunteers out there. The people that are part of the show come out and mow down the weeds, brought out their own equipment, their own tractors, their own manpower, to keep the grounds looking presentable. Moving forward, that is the plan, is to continue to maintain the property, not asking the city to go out there and maintain it. I have contacted the city Parks and Rec about, now that we are a nonprofit and have ability to work with the city a little bit, to maybe piggyback on their dumpster contracts, their porta potty contracts. Now, that was part of us going to a nonprofit, was to open that door to work with the city a little more, as we're no longer an LLC. Race to Empower is the nonprofit that has taken over in place of Mountain Home Speedway. And moving forward, we would like to build on that relationship with the city, not asking Parks and Rec to go take care of the property, but if should something come up to where the city can assist us in a way that doesn't hurt them too much financially, we could definitely ask for it, and you guys would have the opportunity to say yes or no.
And unfortunately, that's not up to the council to say yes or no to. The mayor's going to take that on as the executive here. And I disagree with it. I don't think the city should be taking over maintenance or adding additional dumpsters or additional porta potties for a function or a little piece of property that has a overall right to one person or one LLC or one nonprofit organization, right? So I can sit here till I'm blue in the face and say, Mayor, knock it off. Like, let's not give them our front end loader, which doesn't exactly
I totally respect and understand your position on that.
And he says, yes, I'm going to. Well, then there's the decision, right? And I have to live with it. But then I have to, in my little portion here, I have to help dedicate money to that decision. So I struggle with it.
Okay. So there's, sorry, Scott, did you want to say something? I was going to do the motion in a second, but go ahead.
Mayor, the Speedway in the previous years, and now as Race to Empower, as they reorganized, has largely been self-funding and self-maintained. There are dozens of boots on the ground volunteers that are racers at that facility that understand that they have an unspoken duty to help shepherd this project along as they seek to recreate in their form of recreation. And it does create a significant draw every summer for 6, 8, 10 races on their schedule, where there are hundreds of attendees that have a desire to go partake in this form of entertainment. So far, at least in my experience, the Speedway has largely been self-funded, and those are volunteer hours, those are dollars of investment that were private investment, and this is no different than that. This is a large donation of private investment that seeks to just expand on the existing capabilities. Multiple forms of motorsports happening on the same parcel was always the intent. From a 10-year ago, or roughly thereabouts, application for that. In looking over those older documents, that was always the intent. There was an intent back then to have a road track, go-kart track, and there's dozens of forms of motorsports, and this one just happens to take the interest of some locals who have not only their own funding, but their own engineering teams and so on to do what structurally needs to be done. They have the funding to do the groundwork themselves. It's not as if the nonprofit is asking the city to come in and do these things. That's not been the case thus far. And I would expect that same level of involvement from the crew and the racers just persists in that same manner. I don't think the ask today is to for the city to take on anything. And if anything, the track operators have expressed and shown progress in their own rights to gain their own equipment, perform all of their own actions, whether that's seeking sponsorship for trash removal or spending hours out on a grader that they bought themselves.
Council, there, one last thing I'm going to go for.
This out there. Just to clear the air, the park superintendent is pretty adamant on making sure they're self-sufficient. So they do use some equipment, but we have very much as city staff started to pull away and let these individuals who are operating understand that it's their obligation to do that. Down to the porta potties and the dumpsters. Like, we're very much trying to say you have to be self-sufficient on the property. So just to kind of clear the air.
There's a motion and a second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Harjo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Wirkkala.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Mayor, you didn't allow me to answer all my questions.
Oh.
To ask all my questions.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Tiffany, I appreciate those comments. When you say, like, I can't repeat your words, but does that mean, like, that the park superintendent will say you must provide your own dumpsters, or we'll provide one and you provide one? Same thing with porta potties.
It could. Like right now, specifically at Optimus Park, there's a dumpster and portable restrooms over near the gazebo area, because that is where the general public that pays for a park reservation is going to use the facility.
Sure.
So if Mr. Berg requests a dumpster for their events, the likelihood the city of Mount Home accepts that is going to be a no. They're going to have to provide them themselves for their events, nonprofit status or not. Like Daniel Dobbs Rodeo, they're bringing in their own themes. They hold the same lease agreement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And they're not going to move a dumpster from one location to another to help out.
No, don't get me wrong. Like say Mr. Bird called Miguel and was like, hey, last minute, we're short a couple units. Could you move over an ADA? Because there's been times where like an ADA unit wasn't available in their event, and Miguel's like, sure, this Saturday I'll slide the ADA unit over from that park to there, just because of whatever contractor can't get it delivered. We'll absolutely do that for the public, but we're not going to do it frequently.
Sure.
Right? That's like a one-off.
Yeah.
So, but we do that for any event, crazy days, any event.
Okay. Mayor, question for you. What kind of commitment do we have from you and the executive side as to that this will be self-sufficient if it's approved, and not lending all the heavy equipment and all the staff hours from the city?
I've never been asked for anything for the track, ever, that I can remember. You can correct me, Tiff. I've never been asked. Scott, you're out there, or Councilman Harjo,
The water truck is the biggest thing.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the water truck and the old city loader, the only city equipment that has been asked and have been used out there. Other than that, the road grader has been bought. All other equipment that's out there has either been bought by the individuals running the show or is owned by people participating in the show that donate it to the cause. It is there to be used. The majority of people there are people that are involved in that racing.
He also said that he's asked Miguel, right, or the park superintendent. That doesn't mean it came to you for the request, but there's already been a request for city resources for this.
My thought process is, with any event, city staff gets drugged to AFAT, it gets drugged into Daniel Dobbs. If it's the city event, I'm probably gonna allow my department heads to use their discretion.
What is a city event?
Any event inside city limits.
Any event privately hosted inside city limits?
Not like, hey, I'm gonna go have a private party and I want you to go set up city balance if we don't have, I don't know if we have, but like, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna let them use something for free, you know, like, but we actually charge to use a power box now. We charge rentals for the boards,
Canopies.
the canopies, all those. So,
And we really went to we're treating them all equally.
nonprofit and, you know, everybody, you have to pay.
You know, a couple of numbers for these races. On a Saturday night race, we're bringing in between 400 and 600 people out to that Optimus Park for an event. Those are people that are coming through the city. So I would have to say, in my opinion, the city is benefiting from what we are doing out there. This track is being known, you know, people are talking about it throughout the West. People are talking about traveling to come experience it. They're hearing about this little track outside of Boise, and it's growing like crazy. And
you're not going to hear me say it's not valuable to our community. I'm sure it certainly is. And you also talked about bringing in like the biggest and the best of the cars. I don't know anything about this. Like, are these super loud cars?
We've talked about noise decibels. They were at the P&Z meeting. They have to still have, they would meet the existing requirements under the contract.
And our ordinance.
Under the ordinance, that was discussed.
Simply for the decibel ratings?
Yes.
At certain distances?
Correct. At certain distances during certain times, it would meet the standards that are in the existing contract.
Okay. And a question for Brenda. As far as the application goes, this is a conditional use permit, is that right?
Yes, sir, that is correct. It's an amendment to an existing conditional use permit.
Since we have more residences right in that immediate area now, since the oval track came to be, is there any kind of reason or ordinance that would require a public hearing for this?
Just as an amendment to the existing one for a use that wasn't already included.
Right. You're saying yes, or is there a public hearing requirement?
We had the public hearing.
You did have it.
Correct. That's at planning and zoning. Hence the recommendation.
Okay, sorry. That's fine. Okay. I guess as long as you commit to the noise and doing the work yourself as you guys have been, I'll support it. I don't want it to become a burden on the city. I'm not saying it's going to by any means. I don't want it to become that, like some of the other properties out there have in the past.
So Councilman Brennan, what's your vote?
Do I have your commitment?
My commitment as Race to Empower Incorporated will continue to maintain and make additions to the property with limited assistance from the city. As the city is assisting us with water truck and loader at this point, so that the city is involved. If you want to, you know, looking straight at the facts here, I'm asking. We haven't had a formal contract with the Public Works on using the loader again this year, but in the past it hasn't been an issue. Should Public Works decide no, you can't use it, we will have to go elsewhere to find one, but that won't keep us from putting on a show.
Oh, sorry. Chris? How do you feel about loaning out your front end loader?
It has not been an issue for us.
Paul? What's the legal liability of that? Are you letting them operate it? Are you checking, like, for
We go out there.
professional licenses for that, or whatever may be the case?
Yeah, we've obtained obtain the operator's a copy of their license
For what?
to operate the water truck.
And the front end loader? What is the operator's license?
Well, like on the water truck, it would be a CDL to operate that. The loader, there's not a license. I have to go operate the loader.
Paul, what's the liability of that? An accident happening on the front end loader with a non-city personnel?
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
This is what I've stood on for 7 years. Like, I have a problem with that. I'm gonna vote nay, Mayor. Like, there's no way I'm gonna just sit here and say that they can use it, the front end loader, at their discretion. Whatever, whenever they want, if they shouldn't be able to use our heavy equipment without us being protected from the liability of that.
Councilwoman Garvey?
Mayor, I understand what Councilman Harjo said. I understand what Councilman Brennan said. I understand that the city, in an event, goes out to help manpower, set up. But I have to say, I do agree with Councilman Brennan that to have people that we don't know are qualified to use city equipment, and what if, God forbid, something bad happens, whether they crush themselves because they don't pull the power when they're trying to fix the hydraulic line, or whatever. I mean, running it, you can totally understand where
I understand where you're coming from. I would ask legal, is there anything that
Hey,
releases
Ronnie, hang on
liability?
hang on a second.
So, I think that specific portion of this conversation needs to be discussed further. I don't think that it hinders your application or, but I do agree that people that are not employed by the city of Mountain Home should not be using our equipment.
So this was this is for the PUD.
Right.
So,
That's where
oh, okay.
That's why I said I think
More further discussion.
Correct. That's
Okay.
why I said that. I think that this topic needs to be discussed further in another meeting.
Okay,
Yes.
so what's your vote on the PUD?
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
there you go. Oh,
Councilman Brennan, we have to bring back their agreement to use the facility because they're no longer running under the speedway. So here in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to get back their agreement to negotiate the use of equipment at that time. So that changes your vote on the conditional use permit. I just want to clear that up right now.
no, like I said, everyone meant me trying to get everyone's comments, but this was just for the PUD.
Right.
And let us get on the weeds. And I'm working on trying to wheel us in here. So from here on out, I'm going to probably say, hey, that we're getting off track. We're trying to, this is just for the PUD. So, Councilman Brennan.
Can I request that you recall the vote again? Because there's been new information that came out since the first 2 people voted to the last 2, which includes them having full access to the front end loader. I think it's important for a vote for everybody to have knowledge of that at the time the vote is taken.
So, Council, this is just for the PUD. Now, you can bring back, we can talk about the loader at the next meeting if you want me to put that on the next agenda.
The point I'm making is maybe if we tell them that they can't have the front end loader, then maybe they don't proceed forward and we stop it now. Maybe not.
I believe that they're going to put this, correct me if I'm wrong, Ronnie, you're going to put it in because you have the funds and you have the iron horse to do the work, right?
Yes, all of this work is done. The only time the city equipment would be used is if we do small improvements on our oval track, as it's been used for in the past.
It has nothing to do with this.
Has nothing to do with that speedway. Iron Horse Excavation is ready to come in there and do absolutely everything, including finishing all of our parking lot, as well as filling in front of our grandstands. he's donating from the straight track also to our oval portion of it, donating all of this to the city. While I have the floor, I would let you know, should the city decide that no, you can no longer use our loader, that won't change our plans moving forward. We will find another form of equipment to get the job done. Someone in that group, if I have to, I'll bring a backhoe from the farm out there to get the job done.
I appreciate that.
And that's, I am more than happy to donate my equipment to get it done.
Right.
Here we go. So we're going to run down to final comments. Councilman Harjo.
As a matter of the conditional use permit in the terms of land use, discussion about the use of city equipment does not fall within the purview of the CUP discussion. If we want to have a separate discussion, it sounds like there's an opportunity to have that here in the near future about the terms of a contract, but in the terms of land use, the CUP stands by itself. And I'll leave it at that.
In final, I had a call with Commissioner Corbis today, and he was excited to reiterate that.
We didn't finish the vote.
Yeah, we did. Aye, nay, aye.
I guess I could call for another vote.
Councilman Brennan's request for any of that? To recall?
Council, how does that work? I've never had one.
Paul, I mean,
What do I gotta do, Paul?
Under Robert's Rules of Order, a single council member can request a motion for basically like a motion for reconsideration for newly discovered evidence.
So council, Councilman Brennan, that was your motion to review the vote?
It was. There's new information to me too, just like I was able to acquire out of him, so that's fine. Go. Yeah.
Do I have a second? Hearing none, it dies for lack of second. Okay. Final comments? All I'm just going to say is I had a call with Commissioner Corbis about, he was excited to tell us that the recharge, Canyon Creek recharge in the gravel pits, and then he was talking about a nice lady named Jennifer that's going to help with Nikki, mental health stuff. And then also, I asked Commissioner Corbis about when Republic Service opens or provides, I think it's been bought by the Idaho Restore, what is it, the landfill. So Republic Service purchased it, and I asked him about Superfund issues with EPA, and he said, no, Republic Service has to follow. Thanks, Ronnie. They have to get all that taken care of because that Superfund EPA issue gets the liability back on. What did you call it? PP?
Yeah, PR.
Yeah.
PRP. I forgot.
Which means any city or entity that had put trash out into that landfill would be required funded to fix it or get it all put back in order, remediated.
They have to self-remediate.
Yeah. So, but Commissioner Corbis said, no, don't worry about it. It's all going to be taken care of by Republic Services. They got to do the gazillion tires out there, and then they have the slope is off too, and they got to redo that. And so, I think that was all I had. Oh, girls basketball, they crushed it. They did we're so proud of them. I got a great picture of Ava shooting a three-pointer, and there's Kim and I sitting there watching. So that's cool. So, other than that.
Mayor, I have a final comment.
Yep, go ahead, sorry. Councilman
No worries.
Councilwoman.
Okay, so Council did receive an update from our military liaison that he did have a meeting with the Community Founders Group for American Classical Schools chairman. However, due to two council members receiving information that a citizen public records requested regarding multiple conversations between multiple sources, including our military liaison, Corey Barton-Holmes, legislative drafting attorney for operating a public charter school, legislatures representing the charter school military bill, base commander, Mountain Home Air Force Base school liaison, and attorney and lobbyist for government affairs. Excuse me. And then, as I mentioned, the lead for American Classical Schools and development of outreach director for American Classical Schools. requesting that our military liaison come to our March 11th council meeting to give an update to council on the specific correspondence. And I'm asking if the other council members would like this to be on the agenda as well.
Councilman Brennan.
I'll support the request.
Okay.
Mayor,
Councilman Harjo.
I'll support that request.
Okay. Okay. Councilwoman Garvey.
I would like to ask to add, to bring back, on January 14th, there was a request to go out for an RFP for preliminary engineering studies to relocate possibly or extend the railroad. I would like to bring that back at our next meeting to discuss that, please.
Is it a discussion? Do you want a decision?
Yeah.
It's discussion, decision.
Mayor,
Councilman Harjo.
I'll support that.
And I have one more.
Go ahead.
Okay, also, I would like to add on our agenda, and this would also be an action item, to have a discussion concerning the tournament fees and pass holder fees and how they are paid out to the tournament sponsors and how a person with a tournament or playing in a tournament pays for their tournament fees if they have a season pass. Sorry, that was very lengthy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm so sorry.
Council, you good with that?
I'll support that.
Okay. Okay.
Mayor,
Councilman Harjo.
for clarification regarding Chris's public works water vehicle purchase, while that's not an agenda item on today's agenda, I wanted to make sure that we confirm that you were clear to purchase that truck.
Council, hang on a second. Are you done?
Go ahead.
Councilman Brennan.
I was kind of going to discuss the same thing. These memos are great, and I appreciate them, but are they just informing us you've got the money elsewhere, so you plan to pull it from where? And then, in no way is this a request for, are you talking like the $5,500 public works
Correct.
one? Where's the rest of the money coming from?
It was originally identified with the CIP. It's just really almost impossible to find a truck for that kind of money, so.
Okay, so even though it was budgeted for less, the CIP has, you've sorry, identified that amount.
Yeah, it's in your budget book, I think it'll say.
Same thing with the robotic mowers. Okay.
Councilman Harjo.
Regarding like topics of this nature where obviously time is of the essence for this truck, inventory is very low across the country, especially locally. If we have things like this, like I'm totally game to initiate special meetings, whether that's electronically. Again, I can be the warm body in the room to fulfill the open meeting law, to handle these swiftly if they come up between our council meetings. If we need to call special meetings to achieve these things,